Okay. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about dirt bikes. I owned 4 over the years, and this area where the highway is now actually used to be where we rode our dirt bikes. And as you can see, the sign here through the bush says no motorized vehicles allowed anymore. And that's pretty much what has happened to dirt bikes overall in this area. There's almost no places left to ride. There's a few, like if you own land, you can ride a dirt bike. If you don't own land, you have to go to some either a place that provides areas for people to ride, where you pay a fee, or there's a few places here and there, but not very many. Now, this area down here, now I'm talking before this highway was built, was an awesome place to ride dirt bikes. If you look, there was no houses. Actually, these businesses you see here weren't even here. That was all field too, but the area right here is where we actually used to ride, and it's pretty much where everyone used to hang out. And you know, we didn't bother anybody. We weren't being bothered, but what happened was the city all of a sudden decided that they didn't want us here anymore, and they'd send the police and the bylaw officers down there to chase us off. And you know, eventually, you know, it was getting harder and harder to ride, so people stopped coming along. Now, the other problem we had too was about that time, the provincial government mandated that you had to have insurance on a dirt bike, unless you were riding on your own private property. So, you know, most people think, well, not a big deal, but if you're like 16 or 18 years old and having to spend $500 for insurance on a dirt bike, that costs you $500, you know, that you were scraping to get the money for fuel, you can understand why it just sort of like killed the industry. The industry made a bit of a rebound when the ATV, the 3 and 4 wheelers, started taking off, but the dirt bikes really didn't recover. There's hardly, if you go into a motorcycle shop, unless it's in the country or an area where there's actually a strong motocross connection, you'll find like a couple, you know, dirt bikes, but you won't find a lot, you know. And you know, it's sad because riding on the dirt's a good way to get some skills, so you can actually ride on the street safer. But now, yeah, so this was actually a very large area, and this was a lot of fun. There's a lot of dirt. Actually, what happened was construction companies should dump dirt here illegally, and which of course us on the dirt bikes, we loved, because it was like, hey, jumps, hills, great. Now, about my dirt bikes, I've had 4 over the years. The first one was a Can-Am 400 qualifier. Can-Am was a small company, something similar to KTM or Husqvarna, and they made really high quality dirt bikes in the late 70s, early 80s, and they were pretty good. The bike itself, terrific motor, unbelievable amount of torque and power. Suspension was great, brakes kind of sucked, but they sort of got steamrolled by the Japanese invasion into dirt biking. In the late 70s, the Japanese bikes were pretty much the same as the European dirt bikes, but not quite as sophisticated. And then the Japanese started pouring a ton of money in, and by the mid-80s, that was pretty much it. I think Husqvarna and KTM survived because they focused on the enduro market and trials and whatnot. And now, of course, they're both thriving companies. Can-Am, I think, folded. I think they're part of Bombardier now, but I don't think they actually produce dirt bikes, because they do other things as well instead. I'm trying to think, the 400 qualifier, I had it for a couple years. I really enjoyed it. Eventually, you know, I sold it because I bought something different. I also picked up a 1978 Kawasaki KX 125, which was, or sorry, KX 250. Yeah, it was a KX 250, and it was like a really good little starter bike, and it was fun for blasting around on if you weren't too serious. but it actually became like the best bike to teach people how to ride motorcycles with, because it was low to the ground. My one buddy's wife, she learned how to ride a bike, and she was blasting all around. We ended up taking up to his parents' cottage, and they have a fire road out there, and that's where everyone was riding their dirt bikes up there, because you don't get bothered by the police and whatnot, unless you're a real nuisance. And you know, it was a lot of fun. A lot of people had a lot of fun on that bike. Ended up leaving it at the cottage, never went back for it, and it was like a $200 motorcycle at the time, so it's not like I was out a lot of money for it. The next bike I bought was my first serious dirt bike. It was a RM 125. I believe it was an 82, brand new. It was my first Suzuki. It had the single shock rear end, the really good suspension, tons of horsepower of a little 125. The only problem is that particular bike was not very reliable. I never got to ride it for more than about 20 minutes if something broke or came loose or whatever. Kind of put me off Suzuki for a while, and I ended up selling it to a friend of mine who had it. I raced it a couple times to try racing dirt bikes, and at the time I was probably 18 or 19, and I found there was too many 16-year-old kids with no fear of death, and they would as soon as ride over you and go around you in a corner, and that happened a few times, and I went, screw that, and I went road racing instead. And my last bike was this one here, which I know I have a picture of, the CR500. It's an 85 model. Bought that used. I bought that mostly for a little bit of extra training when I was doing my road racing. And at that time, like, I bought it, and then shortly afterwards it became really hard to ride dirt bikes anywhere. So I only had it for about a year before I sold it, but it was an awesome bike. Like, besides the fact that it had really good suspension, it had an engine that was just astronomically powerful, and it was just like, it was crazy to ride, but it was just fun, and I really enjoyed it. Like, it's the one bike I kind of hated to sell, but there was no really any place around here to ride it. Like, the nearest from where I am standing right here in, I guess, what's probably Stony Creek, East Hamilton, it's about an hour-and-a-half drive to the next nearest place where you could actually ride a dirt bike. And it just, you know, unless you have a truck or have a trailer, and you know, it's basically, it becomes an all-day event. So it's too bad, but you know, I had a lot of fun on them. If I had a piece of property, I probably still have one, but I guess it's not much you can do anymore. Off-road riding is now more or less the adventure touring guys now, with the adventure touring bikes or whatnot, but no real hardcore off-road riding. So, but that's my little short history of dirt bikes. I just thought I'd put it all in one little vlog, because there's not a lot of history there, and of course it's all back in the 80s when I didn't really have a camera, so I didn't get a lot of pictures. So anyways, take care.